What's up, everyone? It's Scotty with MoneyVest. So markets are closed. It was an early close on the day at 1 p.m. Eastern because of Black Friday. And yesterday, the markets were obviously closed in observance of Thanksgiving. It's a long weekend, so we're getting a head start on the weekend here. And I asked everybody in the community if there's any companies or stocks you want me to analyze for this longer weekend. We had over 16, 20 stocks mentioned, and I'm going to try my best to cover most of them over the weekend. Some of them may be private videos for members only. Some of them are going to be publicly posted on YouTube. But if you haven't already, come to our Discord. If you have any stocks or any companies that you think have a lot of potential, let me know in the Discord, and I'll definitely try my best to analyze them or at least include them in our MoneyVest intrinsic value spreadsheet as well. So markets pushing somewhat higher. The Dow Jones was up, the NASDAQ not so much, and S&P 500 was more or less flat here. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, find it helpful, make sure that you drop a like. I would really appreciate that. And thank you so much for your support. I'm truly grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. Some of you have been complaining about the first couple of minutes being about promotions and whatnot. Folks, this is what keeps the lights on. This is why I'm able to do what I do, is because your support really does matter. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And look, you can skip past this if you want, but I would really appreciate it if you just drop a like, subscribe, do all the things that you can give back in a way to kind of keep us focused on the mission. I'm not taking any paid sponsorships. I'm not doing any brand advertising or anything. I'm only presenting you things that I find very, very helpful and I believe can help you in your investing and trading journey as well. So I really appreciate it. And again, link's going to be down below for our Discord, for our Patreon if you want to join, and of course get access to all the members only benefits, spreadsheets, and private members only videos as well. So Dow closes 100 points higher Friday as a major averages rise for fourth straight week. Again, this is where the markets pretty much ended up. Dow Jones was up over 97, close to 100 points. We had the S&P 500 about as flat as it can get, and the NASDAQ also about very, very flat here on the day. We did have a lot of stocks advancing, over 4,000 stocks pushing higher with with about 1,800 stocks here declining. And it was a very, very flat day. NVIDIA did have to face with some China curbs, and they mentioned there's going to be some delays with the export of those chips to China. And as a result, they were down a little bit over 1.8%. Google and Meta also pulling back, with Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, again, very, very flat, pulling back a little bit. We've talked about the technicality of the market. And in fact, going into next week, I wouldn't be surprised if next week actually ends up being bearish. Again, I'm not one for making predictions, but we have seen 4 consecutive weeks of green in the market. And as a result, I wouldn't be surprised going into next week if we actually end up a little bit of a pullback or a correction or some type of dip. And that may be an opportunity for SQQQs or going short or looking at some trading opportunities on the short side, which again, I will mention in the Discord as well over the weekend. I will be doing maybe members only private videos with some trade ideas going into next week. So again, if you want to get access to that, link's going to be down below. You'll be able to, view and watch all the members only private videos, including Excel spreadsheets, and then lock all these Discord channels as well. So going over to the entire market, again, very, very flat. In fact, liquidity was coming out of big tech and kind of flowing into some of the other sectors here. So biotech, we had, auto manufacturers, industrials, energy, all of those sectors pushing higher. So technology and comm services, 2 of the worst performing sectors here on the day, and everything else very, very nicely pushing higher. And in the last 1 week, we had, again, all 11 sectors green. And in the last 1 month, we had most sectors up except for energy. Energy has been under a lot of pressure because oil prices have also been pulling back. Natural gas, silver, palladium, all pushing up. With feeder cattle volatility, we had soybean, we had lean hogs, and corn and wheat prices and orange juice, all of them pulling back here on the day, with Bitcoin just a little bit under 38,000, with Ether just over 2,100 as well. Now, this right here is something big. This changed. Earlier, we were expecting at least 4 rate cuts from the market's pricing in 4 rate cuts, with the first cut starting in May. And this has now changed once again. And now what we are expecting is the first cut is what the market's pricing in beginning in June. So June 12th, 2024 is when the meeting's going to be. And that's when the market's pricing in for the first cut. And the market's only pricing in 3 cuts right now. Not 4, not 5, only 3, which has obviously come down dramatically over the last several weeks. And of course, we're going to end the year in 2024 at 4.5 to 4.75% is what the market's also pricing in at the moment. Now, going over to the S&P, the NASDAQ, and all those different indices, take a look at where the volatility is. Down another 2.6%, right? So volatility continues to get crushed, and we are now inside the red zone. And that's exactly why I am somewhat expecting next week to be bearish. Again, I'm not making a prediction, right? If I'm right, I am. If I'm wrong, I'm not. I'm just kidding. But from a risk reward standpoint, I think there is opportunity considering how low the VIX is. We are now under the 20th percentile. The volatility has not traded at these levels in. Folks, this is going to be crazy since before the pandemic. Can you believe that? So, volatility hit. This is going to be the title of the video. Volatility just hit its lowest level since the pandemic. That's the title of this video. This is about as crazy as it gets. This is the lowest level we've seen for the VIX since, over here, you can see that since January of 2020. In over 3 years, this is the lowest level for the VIX. Crazy, crazy, crazy. The VIX is coming down to some extremely low levels, and I think it's really important for us to be cautious here because if the VIX spikes, we know what happens. Now moving over to crude oil, we are seeing again, kind of trading inside this downtrending or lower high pattern. Support level is going to stay put at $72 a barrel. That's going to be that support level. And of course, if we do see that momentum back up, it's going to be resistance at $78, $79 a barrel for crude oil. Now, one last thing I want to mention, and this is, I promise, going to be the last promo, and that is going to be the Black Friday sale that we have going on for all educational courses. This expires tonight. Literally, Black Friday is only available on Friday. So today is Friday. This is going to expire tonight, and you get individual courses 50% off, and the full course bundle, 4 courses, fundamentals, technical, psychology, and options, 70% off. Okay, so there is a 70% discount on the entire bundle, and coupon code is going to be Black Friday. You can apply that with the link down below. And some other courses, if you want the fundamentals plus technicals, that's going to be 50% off. If you want fundamentals, technicals, and options, that's going to be 60% off. But if you want the entire 4-course bundle, it's going to be 70% off. Link's going to be down below. Coupon code Black Friday expires tonight after midnight. So take advantage if you can. And also Black Friday for TradingView. TradingView is a software that I've been using for well over 5 to 6 years. 70% off plus 1 free month. And link's going to be down below for that as well. Okay, so moving back over to the S&P 500. By the way, IWM had a phenomenal day. It was up 67 basis points. So when we go back to this screenshot where we basically see the majority of stocks were pushing higher, right? So you might be thinking to yourself, Caddy, like 4,000 stocks in green, and yet the markets were not green at all. I mean, we had the S&P flat, NASDAQ down. How is that possible? Well, that's because a lot of the liquidity went towards small caps. IWM is a good representation of that. So small caps was up 67 basis points. So a lot of the liquidity went towards small cap, mid cap. And this sector is actually underperformed. So if you take a look at IWM's year-to-date performance, it is only up 1.89%. That is dramatically lower than S&P or the NASDAQ, let alone the Magnificent Seven, right? So the fact that majority of the stocks were green and the markets were not that high tells us where liquidity went. It went towards small caps, mid caps, and it may be time for us to look into this sector as well, or individual stocks in this sector, small caps, mid caps, that might be dislocated in terms of their value and pricing to look for opportunity, because money is clearly flowing into these equities, into these parts of the market, and that's maybe where the opportunity might be, because it has really just not gone anywhere. So if you take a look at where the IWM is, it has not gone anywhere since November of 2020. So it's been 3 years. 3 years, and IWM has not gone anywhere. It's literally been flat in the last 3 years. So, there's possibility that 2024 may actually end up being a very solid year for IWM, for small caps, mid caps. But of course, that's dependent on a lot of other factors, including recession, inflation, and interest rates and unemployment as well. Now, going over to the bond market, I want to quickly go over to the 10-year yields. You'll notice that we are pushing higher. So it was up 1.36%. We have seen a little bit of a breakdown for the 10-year yields from this trend line. And we are basically coming back up to that resistance. So this right here is actually going to be a little bit of a resistance to watch at 4.5%. We'll see if you break back up at that level, or if you got rejected, sell right back down. It's going to be a very, very critical test for the yield going into next week. And of course, we'll break down everything that is coming up next week. We do have an earnings packed week for next week as well. There's a lot of companies that are reporting, and I will be doing videos on them. Snowflake, we've got Zscaler, CrowdStrike. Some of those companies are going to be on the radar for next week. So 10-year yield pushing back higher. As a result, TLT was down a little bit over 1% on the day today, and TMF over 3% because it does track 3 times the levered amount of the underlying index. So definitely selling off quite aggressively as well. So going over to the S&P 500, this is where we are. Continued momentum, so up over 6 basis points on the day, so very, very flat. And again, we are kind of leveling off on the RSI and the MACD. We are very much in the 90th percentile of the daily RSI if you go back over 90 plus years. So VIX is at its lowest level in over 3 years, and the S&P is at its highest level in over 3 months with an RSI reading that's trading at well over its 90th percentile. The risk reward is what we are here to analyze. So next week, got to be very careful. Of course, from an investment standpoint, nothing changes. I'm still going to be dollar cost averaging into VUG or SMH. I'm still going to be buying into these diversified ETFs or index funds and individual stocks if they are trading at lower levels and undervalued levels. But when it comes to trading opportunities, that's what we're here to assess. And from a risk reward perspective, I think there is going to be opportunity going into next couple weeks on the short side. Again, we'll find out. Not making a prediction. If I'm right, maybe I am. I don't know. So next resistance is going to be at 4,600. That's going to be that next target on the S&P. And support level is going to stay at 4,500 for the S&P 500. NASDAQ here, on the other hand, also a little bit on the overbought side. So you can see the RSI and the MACD, very, very overbought. Resistance next is going to be 14,400. So this right here is going to be that level to watch for the NASDAQ, and support level is going to stay put roughly at 14,100 all the way down to as low as 13,800. That's going to be that next target to watch in case we start to see a bit of a pullback. And of course, we do have a little bit of a gap to fill here for the NASDAQ. Apple, on the other hand, already starting to show some signs of pulling back. So on an underlying basis, you can see that we are seeing some leveling off on Apple, and it's starting to roll over a little bit. If the MACD crosses below that signal line, that's going to be a beginning of a potential sell-off for Apple as well. And of course, we're starting to breach below that support of 189. And next level is going to be closer to $180 per share for Apple moving forward. So that's going to be that next target. Talking about Amazon, and Amazon here continues to hold up really well. Basically flat on the days, so not a lot of selling pressure, but still coming up to that resistance at 146. RSI MACD kind of hanging up there a little bit longer. But of course, you can see the histograms. They're kind of narrowing in. So there is a little bit of divergence forming. So be careful. That's a little bit more advanced underlying indexes that we need to watch. Like you can see the histograms kind of narrowing in, right? So the momentum starting to fade out a little bit. And RSI is basically moving sideways as the price continues to hang up at that resistance. So, volume obviously was a lot lower today because of a shorter day. But of course, we have seen during the holiday season, the volatility does start to taper off, considering people are taking holidays, people are going on vacations. So as a result, volume starts to drop off a little bit. Something to keep in mind, of course, 147 is going to be that resistance. Tesla, on the other hand, very, very flat, so not really moving anywhere, up 0.5%, consolidation sideways, resistance is going to be at 240. We've just been kind of struggling at that level, and we're still within the context of this downtrend of lower highs and lower lows, something to keep in mind, and support level obviously is going to stay put in the low 200s for Tesla as well moving forward. NVIDIA obviously selling off a little bit, clearly showing signs of some weakness with the RSI and the MACD. You can see starting to come down, especially the MACD. You can see there, it's now starting to level off. If we do cross below that signal line, that unfortunately is going to be a bit of a bearish sign for the price itself. Wouldn't be surprised if we do start to roll over and kind of fill this entire gap down. Now, I don't know if we're going to come down to low 400s, but you can see the price definitely doesn't look super strong, and it's starting to already roll over back lower. So we're going to find out next week how this ends up performing, but down almost 2% on the day. Talking about advanced micro devices, and AMD continues to hang up in that support area at above $120, $122. RSI MACD also kind of hanging up there pretty nicely, but like I said, not feeling super confident. We'll be very, very cautiously optimistic going into next week for advanced micro devices. Next target and resistance is going to be at about $130, and we're still kind of sliding sideways up at that higher high. We still got that higher high intact, and support level, like I said, is going to stay put around 120 to as low as $112 per share for AMD moving forward. Talking about PayPal, and PayPal not really doing anything, so just consolidating sideways. Somebody shared a very funny meme on PayPal in our Discord. It's kind of like, we're just with a stick trying to do something with PayPal. It's like, come on, do something. Like, come move, at least do something, right? Nothing really. Resistance is going to stay put at $56. That's going to be that target. Support level is going to stay put at $50, $51 per share. And right now we're seeing obviously a lot of consolidation sideways, with the resistance next one is going to be at $65 per share for PayPal. Talking about Visa, and Visa, man, continues to hit a new all-time high. It's just been on a massive rally right now. It's just been pushing higher very nicely from its lows. It's up over 11%. RSI MACD incredibly overbought, so certainly not touching this from a technical analysis standpoint. It's incredibly overextended right now, so something we definitely need to be aware of and be cautious that it's kind of ripe for that risk reward opportunity on the downside, looking very, very favorable. Talking about Meta platforms, and Meta here also starting to roll over a little bit, down almost 1%. You can see the RSI MACD again, overbought, starting to come back down, hitting that higher high support level is going to stay put at 330 down to $315 per share for Meta. And Netflix is also looking pretty solid, I would say. We've got an RSI MACD, again, incredible rally, consistent green days. I think it's had like 4 weeks of consistent green. Yeah, so it's absolutely phenomenal, right? 4 consistent weeks of green. RSI MACD also getting up to those levels. And resistance is going to be at 485 for Netflix. So this is actually going to be a part of our trade idea video over the weekend that I'll share with all the members. Again, Patreon link is going to be down below if you want to join. Of course, get access to all that. 452 is going to be that support all the way down to this potential gap and down to $340 as well. Google, on the other hand, started to already show signs of some weakness. So you can see that we talked about that resistance and got a rejection at 1.29%. This right here is the level between 139 and 143 and support level, and inside this gap all the way down to $126 for Google is also something to watch, and RSI MACD also showing signs of some momentum and weakness to the downside. Microsoft leveling off a little bit, new all-time high, obviously hitting that. RSI MACD hanging up there pretty nicely, but support level is going to stay put at 366 all the way down to $340 for Microsoft as well. So those right there are going to be some levels to watch moving forward for Microsoft. And finally, we've got Costco and Enphase. And Costco here has been obviously on a nice consistent green after green, up over 39 basis points, validating that support at 575, 576. Next resistance target is going to be $603 per share for Costco. And it's obviously seeing a very nice bounce back higher from that support. But of course, valuation still is a bit of a concern for Costco. And Enphase about as flat as it gets, not really moving anywhere, just over $100. Support level is going to stay put at 92. Next target and resistance all the way up to $108, $109 per share. And this right here obviously is a gap that we need to fill for Enphase eventually. And we have to break past that resistance in the $108, $116 per share moving forward. So hope you guys enjoyed this video and a complete update on the markets. Volatility at its lowest level since before the pandemic, lowest levels in over 3 years for the VIX. So that's something to keep in mind. And also don't forget, we've got lots of deals for today only, tonight after tonight. It does expire. Cannot put enough emphasis on this because I do get a lot of emails and messages asking for when the next discount is going to be. This is for TradingView. This is for our full four course bundle, 70% off, and the coupon code is going to be Black Friday. That's going to be applicable to all individual courses and bundles as well. Link's going to be down below. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, email, message me, and I'm always going to be available. As always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.